Finally, the moment a couple of you have been waiting for.
It's all like bing bong, Jack.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Duval and St. Johns County. The show for Jag fans by Jag fans.
You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Here are your hosts, Franklin and Michael how you say it? DeZoba. Welcome to the Jaggernaut Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages, I want to welcome you back to another Jaggernaut Podcast. As always, it's Mike. Got my brother with me, Frank. Frank, are we still repping Duval?
Duval!
Yeah.
Whatever.
Even if they go south, we've been bad for so long. It's like, well, even if they're shitty, we're still fans.
Yeah.
You're not really a fan if you jump ship.
Right.
But, man, they're hard to watch. Here we go again. I don't understand. We got the tools, talent, got the coach, and they still come out and shit themselves. So what's going on, man? What did you see?
I think to summarize, what I saw was a team that didn't care as much as the team they were facing. Like if you think about the Jaguars from last year, and this is what is very concerning, because if you remember, when we did our last podcast, we talked about the Chiefs game. We said, yeah, that game sucked. Blah, we complained about how bad they sucked. But then we said, but we're not worried. Well, now I think I'm a little worried. I'm actually very worried. And the reason why I am is because the one thing that I thought that this team had was a mentality that could get over humps, So what we saw wasn't X's and O's or Jimmy's and Joe's. It was a mentality. And I thought that the mentality displayed last year was the type of mentality that could get over stuff, like even when they were in the bad place last year, you still felt like the team, you weren't sure about the talent, but you were thinking they're a team that's working. That's a team that's going out. They got their lunch pail or whatever you want to say. They're working. And this, I gotta be honest, this is the first time I thought a Doug Peterson coach team, they didn't look like they even wanted to be out there. Like I didn't see anything that team was going through the motions.
And you know what? That sounds exactly right. Because right after Mr. Ridley, the talented Mr. Ridley, dropped that touchdown pass, it all seemed to snowball from there. I mean, it really did. The first sign that something went wrong or didn't go their way, and it cascaded, man. It was like choo, 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 choo. Now, I don't want to say their credit, but they came out in the second half. They marched down. They scored a touchdown. And we're thinking, we can get back into this. Well, special teams and Trevor Lawrence said, hell no, we can't. I don't know, how do you yell at them? Do you say, like, what do you do to motivate? And that's another thing. If they're unmotivated, that's a coaching problem.
No, it is.
Some of the better coaches in this league are very good motivators. So if they're unmotivated, that is a coaching problem, and that bothers me. I don't give a shit who's playing the calls. Everybody cares about who's playing the call. Who's the play caller? Who's the play caller? Did Doug Peterson take it back in the second half? Who cares? We got our butts whooped in both halves, so it doesn't matter. Our offense and defensive line is exactly what they are that we have been saying. Our offensive line is 31st in the NFL. They were wearing them T-shirts. Wear it proudly, boys, because that's what you are. You are 31st. Our defensive line, for all of the good football player that Travon Walker is, he cannot affect the quarterback. He's not a pass rusher. He's not. And Mike Hallwell, your schemes, dude, they suck. Like they're horrible. So
Yeah.
we have no pass rush talent outside of Josh Allen, and Josh Allen can only give you this or that here or there. He's not consistent with it, but at least he's the best we have. Right? We have now we didn't do bad in the run game. We held their run in check most of the game.
Yeah, I guess.
It was all in our secondary because you know what they said? It was lack of communication. How do you play? How do you play more than 2 or 3 games in the NFL and not communicate?
Let's discuss that for a minute. I want to. You touched on a lot there, so there's a lot to deal with. But mentality aside, so let me deal with that first. What I would do? No, we'll deal with that. You ask me later what to do mentality wise. I'll tell you later. But in regards to, you mentioned Caldwell's scheme and it sucked. So I'm not sure that it sucks, but I think maybe it's overly complex. And the reason there's 2 plays that jump out at me, and just the overall scheme that makes me think this. So one of the plays you're talking about was the Tank Dell
bomb
touchdown. This was the touchdown, not the first big miss, but so Darius Williams is lined up basically in slot, as I remember it, which seems strange for him, somehow the safety was to his left. He's got Tank Dell, who's the slot receiver, and he just streaks by. For some reason, Darius, who's got a guy to his left, a defender, has a receiver there. He goes with the outside receiver and doesn't take the man in front of him and allows the man in front of him just to run by him. You remember which play I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is in scheme wise. Like maybe he thinks the safety's supposed to come back behind over for that. To me means, yeah, communication's an issue, but what are you trying to accomplish when you go, I'm going to let the guy in front of me go to cover the guy who's already covered? That I don't even understand where that would even fit in any scheme to even be a communication breakdown. Like, wouldn't that maybe the breakdown would be, oh no, Darius, you don't cover your guy, you're supposed to cover my guy. But it was, no, Darius, come over and cover the guy I'm already covering. Were they supposed to swap? Because the receivers didn't swap, they just went straight. So I don't understand that. There was the Caleb Chason play where, they took a still photo where Stroud is just like far back, and it was very apparent because this was the complaint that I've had a lot with this team, even before Caldwell got here. Somehow our defenders tend to group into a teal ball in the center. I don't understand. What is the scheme? Was that Chason? Why would Chason decide, I'm on the outside, I am the end? So a lot of times, even as a defensive end, you're thinking containment. So when you complain about Trayvon, and I complain about Trayvon, trust me, but sometimes he's not necessarily rushing because maybe his goal is rushing the quarterback's kind of secondary, and he's wanting to make sure he keeps contained on his edge because we've seen that before. So in what scheme world would your light, not powerful, speed rushing style defensive end, I'm not saying he's good at what he does, but that's what the body type of Caleb Chason is, would demand that he actually take the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle and go and group himself along with the interior defensive line. Because one, you're not going to get up, you're you're not playing to the strength of who you are as a player. And 2, you're losing all the containment in the world. And 3, you're making it easier for the offensive linemen to block because you're just running into the other linemen. You're not actually helping at all. You're not creating the openings with which, even if you thought you're helping the interior guys push up the middle, that doesn't help them do that either. So even in the scheme realm, it's like, what are they doing? What do they think they're accomplishing in that scheme? And then also, you mentioned Josh Allen. Well, Josh Allen's dropping into coverage a lot. Why? Because we're running 3-4. And if they're in base and it's not nickel, then he can't rush because the running back runs out or the tight end goes out. And so he's got to run out in the field and cover him. And so we're left with Trayvon, who's supposed to be the guy that rushes when Josh Allen can't. And he can't rush at all. And that's the other thing that I think needs to be discussed. And this is something that everybody did as Jag fans, and it's fair now. I think it's fair. There's a reason why Jag fans are going Trayvon Walker. Because, dude, this is the 3rd game of your 2nd season. You still don't have any pass rush moves. What did you do all off season? And if you were doing anything, why isn't it translating from the off season to the regular season? How do you get a job where, and this is our mistake, and this has been brought up, highlighted by the fact that Hutchinson got 2 sacks, I think, highlighted by the fact that the Jags did what they did. But the thing is like, just from a player standpoint, I'm trying to understand the mindset here of somebody who's given a job, making millions of dollars, and because they go, we know we haven't seen you perform, but we believe in you. We believe you're so talented that just digest what it is to be a defensive end. We don't want you to go inside. I know the fans think you should be inside. We think you should be a defensive end. Focus on defensive end. Learn what it means to be a defensive end. And be given that opportunity and come out after a full year and a full off season and look like you didn't look into what it takes to be a defensive end at all. Like, he's still just pushing straight with his arms and pushing forward almost every play. There was one play. I talked too much. I got more about Trayvon that bothered me too. I don't think in the second half, I don't think he was trying. I got to be honest. And that's a skill, understanding the role, all that stuff. That's the first game I ever thought. You say he's a good player in other ways, but pass rush? No.
No. He's a good run stopper. That's what he is. He's a run stopping defensive end. That's what he is.
He didn't hustle at all in this. Well, no, I don't know. Times in the second half, I saw that guy not give. He didn't look like he cared to be on the field. I got to be honest with you. With the way he was playing, that bothered me.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the Heat beat these guys? Normally, I love playing at home in the early part of the season because these guys should be practicing here, which means they should be more acclimated to how hot it gets here than, say, Detroit, than, say, Chicago, Kansas City. So usually in the second half, in the mid-third quarter, the other team will start to wilt, right? But that didn't happen. In both games, we wilted. Here's how I know that. Both games, our running back went out with cramps. You need to drink a lot of water, right? I mean, especially if you're going to be an NFL guy. You can't tell me that he doesn't know how to hydrate. So you're not hydrating correctly for Northeast Florida. Because if you need to know how to do it, ETN, why don't you call your brother?
He's from Louisiana too.
He plays right there in the swamp. Why don't you ask him how he hydrates? Because I guarantee he's not coming out in the fourth quarter with cramps 2 weeks in a row. So to me, there's something wrong here that's more than the heat. It's more than the fact of Trayvon Walker. He wasn't a first-round draft pick. If you're a first-round draft pick as a defensive end, you affect the quarterback.
It's like the main job.
He doesn't. Yeah, he does not. He's a second-round, into the second, third-round guy at best. Again, this was a swing and a miss by Trent Baalke. We'll put him up there with the tackle. Who's the tackle? Sheriff. Another swing and a miss by Baalke.
Yeah.
Right? So there you go. At this point, I'm still back on the fire Baalke train because you had your options, you had your chance, and you haven't done shit with it. All you've done is given us hopes and dreams that haven't materialized into anything.
Well, he's doubled down. He's doubled down on his plan too because, they got rid or let Arden Key go, which was fine. But there were guys that you could have brought in. I mean, you knew Smoot was going to be out. And you got Josh Allen on the fifth year of his contract playing for a new contract, right? So maybe you think, oh, we'll get some
extra juice out of him.
Yeah, well, and Trayvon's going to come into his own. So there's a number of things that come to me. It's like, okay, well, what about the rotation? Like, who's rotating with these guys? And in fairness, like, if you do spend good money on somebody to bring in, that's hard to, it lowers the value because you do want to, of some player when they're not out there. But at the same time, what if you get an injury? And did you watch Trayvon? Like, what in the offseason do you evaluate him? How do you know he's putting the work in? Because honestly, if he's putting the work in, like, something's not right. Like, if he's putting the work in, then he's never going to make it.
And I think that's exactly what he's doing. There's nothing he's done to make me say he's not trying. But everything I see tells me he has no bend. And you know what I'm talking about? Bending the edge, bending the quarter, the corner to shorten the distance between you and the quarterback. Good pass rushers have that bend. Some look like they can even get parallel with the ground. Trayvon Walker has zero bend. He had zero bend in college. He has no bend now. You can't teach bend. Players can either do it or they can't. This guy can't do it.
You know what's funny? And I should have grabbed the graphic, but feel free to check what I'm going to say, anyone who watches this video. Contrast how Trayvon looked at defensive end compared to Chris Jones. And I know everybody's like, oh, Chris Jones is amazing. He's amazing inside at his position. And the Chiefs took a guy who plays inside. And you would say, okay, does that translate? I'm going to tell you no. It's a totally, because of the bend, exactly what you were talking about. You don't expect a inside defensive tackle to have bend or even if they do, to utilize it as well, because they're not used to, because they're not always playing defensive end. They put Chris Jones on Harris, and he abused Harris like that was his position. Chris Jones looked better playing that position. And the reason why I'm highlighting this, and people can go, Chris Jones is a great player. Fine. But what makes him a great player? That's the question. Because Trent Baalke thinks it's length and 40 time and cone drills or whatever. Go look at his RAS. Poor explosion is what he's got. Chris Jones. And this is a guy that got put on the end. Apparently, if you looked at that, a defensive tackle who's poor in explosion, I'm not going to translate that to the NFL defensive end. So why did it translate? Because he's a damn football player. And that's the thing. I don't know, some of these guys are football players. I don't know what Trayvon Walker is. I don't know that he even gives a crap about football. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't or does or anything like that. I'm saying, where's the swim moves and stuff? Like, I don't see any of that. He's not even trying the moves, is what I'm saying.
That's all he does.
I know. And there's a couple other things. It's like, there was a play where he actually got spun around. So he's on the left side, all the lines to his right. Whether it's a pass or the run, quarterback, running back, everybody's to your right. Somehow he gets spun around where his back is to where everything's going on, and the lineman's just pushing him out of the way. There was another play, and I think it was like a couple plays later, where the running back clearly got the ball. It was running away from Trayvon, and he watched the play. He didn't even pursue it. He didn't even go after it. He just watched it. It's like, you're not even trying, dude. You're not even trying. And that was the thing. There's certain things that happen in that game. Look, all kinds of weird crap happen. You know, like you want to go, that's not going to happen every game, you know, that sort of thing. But it's the other things. Like when special teams break down, they break down because there's not the drive and energy that you're supposed. That's typically, you know, special teams is that and coaching normally. That's usually the mark of good coaching and good teams that are try-hard guys. You don't need athletes. You don't need athletes to do special teams. It's just focus, trying, coaching, and technique and all that stuff. And there was a breakdown there. Everywhere you could see there was a breakdown. It appeared to me this was a completely unfocused team. Coaching, you said that. It's a coach, and it's a coaching in this respect. It's knowing that they were that way and trying to figure out how to stop that, you know? Because what bothers me is Peterson seems to be unaware about that. Like he is now, but he wasn't. It's like, I don't know what, you know, he's at a loss. He doesn't know why this is happening. It's ultimately the player's responsibility. You shouldn't have to motivate these damn guys. They're professionals. And I think that what we're seeing is we got a team that went from a mentality of earning every second of every play, even when they were down, even when you thought they can't come back from this, they were still hustling, to now they seem like they're entitled. Like they can walk on the field and it'll just land in their laps or something. I mean, I don't know how to express what I saw in the team, but other than to say that, obviously there's a mentality. Think about this. This is another thing that I think I could quantify why this bothers me. Remember that we were told that after the Chiefs lost, they were angry.
Right.
You remember that?
They were mad.
Dude. Look out, Texans. Look out, Texans. Now, think about this for a minute. Okay, obviously, that helped zero, maybe hurt. Think about how self-absorbed that is. As if your feelings equate to anything about what's going to happen when you line up against. So it's like they're inwardly focused. It's like, in other words, they're not focused on the Texans. They weren't focused on the Chiefs. They're focused on the Jaguars. Even today, like there's talking about Peterson, we need to focus on ourselves. You want to know what I think? If I was Peterson, what I would do, I'd lean into it, which is crazy as it sounds. Usually if there's a fire, you want to put it out. Water on fire. I think fire with fire right now. I'd lean into it. I'd tell him go have fun. Forget it. Screw it. Because I don't know that you're getting rid of that mentality necessarily. You got to harness it somehow. These guys are inwardly focused. They're kind of arrogant, I think, at this point. They think they're good, but they're actually, and it's somehow it's not causing. Usually, confidence can help performance. In this case, it's hurting it. The problem is they're not having fun. I'd say go have fun. Play football. It's a game. Go have fun. Don't make it so important. Just go have fun. That's what I would tell them.
You heard it here. That's right. Go have fun. That's all you got to do. No X's, no O's, no Jimmy and Joe's. Just go have fun. Anyway, man, I don't know what the problem is, but I definitely think it is mental. I think it's mental, and I think we lack deficiencies in certain areas, offense, defensive line. I think our GM has done us a disservice. I think it's finally starting to come out because you don't want to hold a draft pick accountable until he earns his stripes one way or another. Like Caleb on Chason, we know he's a bust. We know based off of his last 4 years in the league, he shouldn't have even been drafted. Right. He should have just been a walk-on tryout guy. That's it. Walker, he's good against the run. He ain't good at anything else. That's all he is. At this point, that's all he's ever going to be because all he can do is just bull rush.
Yeah.
And he can't bull rush over an 18-year-old anymore. He's going up against 28, 29-year-olds, and it's not the same. I don't care how powerful you are.
He didn't even get a chance to bull rush at Georgia much. He wasn't. Okay, he was on a good team, but look, if you're the number 1 overall draft pick, I don't give a crap what college team you're on. You're a starter, full time. Not, we just don't know what to do with them. It's like, well, there's a reason then.
Dude, maybe we have to go through this. Maybe we have to learn how to draft people. I mean, we drafted Blake Bortles, who entered college as a tight end. And we said, hey, that's a good enough resume to become our quarterback. Come on down. We don't have that GM anymore. So hopefully, I'm not a big Trent Baalke guy. I want to try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but at this point, I don't really think I can.
Well, nobody's talking about Baalke masterclass anymore, I can tell you that.
Well, I want to call bullshit when I see it because nobody else is, because local sports aren't going to talk about this. They don't put all this shit to bed. No, it's not to bed because it's not over. It's never been over. He may not be clown. He may not deserve the clown emojis or whatever, which I disagree with. But still, it needs to be said. We wasted a first-round draft pick on a guy who cannot affect the quarterback.
Well,
there you go. That's.
I don't want to make this. I don't want to make this a whole thing, a referendum on Trayvon.
Okay, then let's stop. Let's go right to Atlanta.
Yeah. I will say just last thing about him though. I was trying to wrap it up, man, and you shut me down.
Yeah, you sound like it.
Well, I'm just saying that he was always going to be a project, even at number 1. What they're basically saying is he's so gifted that it's worth it. And the process would be, well, you're basically giving up his first year to just get the experience, but then
to get acclimated to the NFL.
You're going, oh crap, man. He doesn't even look like he knows what defensive ends do. So that's the problem. But anyway, where do you want to go? Atlanta?
Let's go to Atlanta, man. We got Atlanta. Okay, just for you Jags fans, because apparently there are a lot of you out there. We play this Sunday at 9:30 a.m. You heard it right, 9:30 a.m. That is in the morning. Okay? It is a London game. So we don't have to deal with the heat. Maybe the heat was beating us, right? So we don't have to deal with the heat. But we have a pretty hot Atlanta team. Atlanta, last time we played, kicked our butts. Cordell Patterson went off. He may or may not play. I don't know. I haven't heard. They haven't confirmed one way or another on that.
Does it
Uh,
matter?
yeah, I don't know what to expect. Right now, I think we're 3-point favorites.
We are.
We probably should be.
Vegas didn't learn their lesson. 28-point swing that was. Or was it 7.5 or 8-point favorites against the Texans? We lost by 20.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, at home. At home. Well, we used to complain all the time, and I used to say that our team just never shows up. And the Jacksonville Jaguars didn't show up on this game. Not only that, I used to have a saying: if I had anybody in fantasy going up against the Jags, start them. Start them. He could be your backup kicker. Start them. Right? And what else? If a team couldn't run the ball against the rest of the NFL, they could come into Jacksonville and they could run the ball.
Yeah.
If they couldn't pass the ball against the rest of the NFL, they could come into Jacksonville and they could pass that ball.
Who do the Texans play? I meant to look this up. Do you know?
I don't
Whoever
know.
they play, I want to look. I
want to say Pittsburgh.
All right, good, because Pittsburgh's not exactly, the greatest team right now. So, but what do you want to bet that? Because while you're watching the Jags get their clocks cleaned by a Texans team that isn't supposed to be good on paper when they're completely healthy, but was absolutely decimated by injury. And then so they're like, well, DeMeco Ryans has turned it around. And trust me, I like DeMeco Ryans as a coach. I think he's going to be really good. But that whole thing about that narrative, and I get it. What else you got to talk about? That he's just like they're really playing for him, and this is he's got it together now. Took him 3 games, but he's got it now. And what do you want to bet that all of a sudden they ain't playing all that great, and the narrative ain't going to be how great DeMeco Ryans is,
right? And how C.J. Stroud is the second coming.
The Texans will go back to being what they were before they played us because of exactly what you said, which is we are a remedy for a number of teams and players.
Whatever it is, we're the remedy. Come play us. Like what? Okay, so Atlanta, they can't pass the ball very good. Desmond Ridder is not being talked about in a high regard, right? How much you want to bet? Say Drake London, 100 yards, a touchdown. Desmond Ridder looks like the second coming. They may not run because Atlanta's known to run, and they have a very run-heavy offense. But their passing game, it's going to be spot on. Boop, 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 boop,
well,
touchdown.
Ridder won't be under pressure, that's for sure.
Well, yeah.
Allen will be dropping back into coverage, and Trayvon will be bull rushing, and he'll get close. He'll be there. He'll get close.
Just enough to tease.
He won't put his hand up to block a pass. He'll just be right in the shoulder of the running back.
I do believe that the Jags, and I'm still believing, I do believe that the Jags come away with a victory. I would like it to be in dominating fashion. All 3 phases.
I do think they can turn it around. It's just they've got to snap out of whatever this mentality is. And again, the offensive line, the defensive line, they're going to be issues all year. So in order to do whatever it is that they're going to need to do, it's going to be more of a finesse game. I want to see Ingram. Ridley needs to catch passes, not drop them. The basic thing. We can run the ball, that sort of stuff. And part of it, what I'm thinking too, is the offensive line. The pathetic nature of this offensive line is creeping into everyone else. Because think about, we're talking about the defensive line too having problems. Well, these are the guys they practice against. So it's not exactly iron sharpens iron. Okay, it's Play-Doh versus Play-Doh at this point. And that, I think, is what's going on. So that's another thing with the coaching staff and all this stuff. We just need to get better. Okay? I don't know what that means. I don't know what Peterson has seen out of this offensive line that makes him think that they're going to get better. All we heard last year was Sheriff was hurt. That's why he didn't play well. and then they said he's finally healthy. So what's the excuse now? You can't tell one lick of difference between Sheriff and Ben Barch. Both suck. And Ben Barch is like an undrafted guy, or maybe he was a late round pick, I forget. Like that, and that's the guy that's supposed to be the anchor for your new tackle. So yeah, they need to figure it out. I don't think that. My point is, and I'm not trying to be negative. You tried to spin it positively. I'm not trying to take us back negative. They can win even despite the lines, but they have to know where they are. They have to evaluate themselves correctly.
Honestly,
you actually do have the 31st offensive line in the league, and you probably should be the worst. You know, who knows? You might be the worst because they play that way. They're very, very poor offensive line, and the defensive line, although is okay stopping the run, they can't pass. They can't pass rush, and apparently blitzing's out of the question because, you know, there's communication breakdowns when you do that. So I don't know what the issue. I don't know how they're going to solve it, but like again, I think you just go out and have fun. Defense you got to strip down some of that. Just go back to basics. You're not stopping anybody anyway, so. I mean, the league makes it that way. It's difficult, so. And Atlanta's not a complex offense anyway, so maybe it's a good way to do that. But like you said, Desmond Ridder will probably have a good game because he hasn't yet. So.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We're the slump buster, baby. Woo, come see us.
And that's what's crazy too. And that of all the things that this loss did was you never wanted to get to the point where you started going same old Jags. You never wanted to do that because you thought, no, this is a new era. We got our QB, generational QB. The defense is coming up. You know, we've got talent there. Got a brand new weapon. None of this stuff should be happening like this. And that's the thing that's so disappointing about all this. And maybe that's what happened. All of us thought, this is just supposed to be a great team, and maybe, you know what, maybe they're thinking we're just supposed to be a good team. Well, you're not really entitled to that. Yeah. You actually have to work for it. And I think that might be what's going on.
Fair enough, but I think we work for it this weekend. I think we come away with a W.
You locking it?
I'm locking it. Jags for a win. I would say by 3, easy.
Cool.
Now that could be by 4 or 5 or 7, but I think the Jags will pull it off.
All right, well, we did enough ranting, so.
Yes, thank you for listening to us. I know this one was hard to get through, but hopefully you guys feel like we do out there, and you're sort of pissed off and let down. Yeah. I mean, but at least we're mad. There were times years ago where we didn't even care. All right, well.
Oh, I'm going to tell you what. That fourth quarter, I snapped into apathy real quick. I didn't want to. I just stared at that. I kept staring at that score. 34-17, I think. I don't even remember. It just like, I just remember thinking, this is like Twilight Zone. And I went from being angry to just
whatever.
I got to snap. This is just football. It's just a game. It's not that big of a deal. It's what you got to tell yourself, especially when you're a Jags fan.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Please hit that like, subscribe button. Drop us a comment. We do reply. We'll have an entire conversation if you like. We like that. Do it. It's free. All right. Thank you.
See you guys.
Duval! I feel so weird doing that now.
After forced.
After this whole
don't worry. It's an unpassionate Duval for a unpassionate performance.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, guys. See you next time.